Welcome to the December the 2nd, 1997 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie. We are very excited today. Our history tape number 322. And we just have two celebrities with us today, and we're so excited about this history tape. And we're very pleased today, first of all, to bring to you the very honorable Mayor, Charles England. Mayor England.
Thank you, Ruthie. It's good to be here again.
It's wonderful. And the First Lady of Grand Prairie, Janice Wagoner England. Welcome to the set.
Thank you, Ruthie.
We're so glad that you all would agree to share your lives in the history of Grand Prairie, because It Happened in Grand Prairie is about the history of people that have been important to Grand Prairie and that have made history in the past and continue to make history every day. And first of all, Janice, we know protocol has it we have to interview the mayor first. Is that all right with you today?
That's
all right.
The best, anyway.
Mayor England, would you look out into your camera and tell us a little bit about the real Charles England, your genealogy, and some of the things that happened to you several years ago, I'll put it that way.
Ruthie, I'll tell you some of the things that happened. I'm not going to tell you everything, not on TV, but say it's good to be here. I always enjoy being on your show, and you said earlier what I've done for Grand Prairie, but let me be quick to say that Grand Prairie has done so much for me and my family, and it's just a real honor to get to be mayor and get to be on this show. I'll tell you a little bit about me, but not everything. But I was born in Venus, Texas, in my grandparents' farm house. That's in Johnson County in March of 1939. Would
you name your grandparents then?
Sure,
so
I would. I was my grandmother and grandfather Vandiver. Farmhouse. It was about halfway between Midlothian and Venus, right on the Johnson-Ellis County line, and so I always thought that should be a historical marker, but nobody else seemed to agree with that.
You may want to put up one of your own.
I might do that. I was born. My dad was Charles Alvin England from raised on a farm there in between Venus and Alvarado. My mother was Jeanette Vandiver. I was the firstborn.
You were the firstborn.
Firstborn. And the firstborn always have the toughest time.
It's tough. Yes, it is.
Then later, my parents, my mother had twin boys, and so I had two brothers, Frank and Jim. And we lived. I lived my early childhood in Venus and went to school through the 7th grade in Venus.
All right.
And about that summer, after the 7th grade, I thought, maybe there's another place that might fit me better. I think I'd just about worn everybody in Venus out. So, it was in the summer between the 7th and 8th grade that I moved to Grand Prairie and moved in with my aunt and uncle, Frank and Juanita Thompson. And of course, had been like parents to me really since the day I was born. Shortly after the twins were born, my mother and dad separated and divorced, so my mother kind of had her hands full with the twins, and so my aunt and uncle had always seemed like a special interest in me and them, and so I moved to Grand Prairie, and they took me in. And
where'd you live in Grand Prairie, Texas?
Lived right next to your sister, Ruthie. I lived at 1518 Ash, next to Mary and Dale Boyd, dear friends of our family. And but we lived at 15. I believe Mary and Dale lived at 1522. We were 1518 Ash, where I was raised.
All right. And since you moved there, prior to that, going to school in Venus, were there any special teachers or special mentors that you had as an elementary student? Or what did you have any chores to do on the farm?
I can tell you, I didn't really live on the farm. I was born on the farm, but then we actually lived in town. Now, Venus is not much of a town, or wasn't then. It's grown a lot. It's grown a lot since then. I think there were 200 or 300 people in the town then, and I lived with my mother and grandmother and granddad. We lived in a house there in town. And gosh, I can remember, of course, in Venus, a teacher had 2 grades. You had the 1st and 2nd grade were in one class, and 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th. There were two grades in each room. So that's how small Venus was. But
a favorite teacher.
But oh yeah, I can remember that Ms. Reese was my 1st and 2nd grade teacher, and she's that's the one I remember the most, and they were all good, and I remember them, every one of them. Miss Jarrett was my 3rd and 4th grade teacher, and Miss Vale was my 5th and 6th grade teacher, so Miss Finley in the 7th grade, so I can remember them all. And,
was it tough to leave Venus and come to a larger town of Grand Prairie?
Not really. I'd always, Tuta, who's my aunt, who's Juanita, and Papa Frank had always been so special. I mean, it was.
You felt at home?
I always felt at home from.
Where'd you go to school? In Grand Prairie?
And went to, a lot of people think that I went to Lee Junior High, but Earl Tom Keel corrected me that when I was there, it was Grand Prairie Junior High.
Yes, it was.
Which is now Lee Junior High.
Uh-huh.
So that's where I started school in Grand Prairie in the 8th grade. Janice had and she'll tell you later, started at Travis, but I actually moved here in the 8th grade at Grand Prairie Junior High.
All right.
Went 8th and 9th grade there, and then.
Anyone impressed you there, teachers-wise?
Oh,
did you play sports?
I did. I'll tell you what, Coach John Hill was my football coach. One of the first teachers I met when I moved to Grand Prairie. He lived over close to us in Fairview, and I remember like yesterday going to his home that summer and telling him I wanted to play football, and so Coach Hill was one of the first people I met.
You were out hustling to play football.
I had to, make my mark. That's right. And if you remember, Carlisle Smith lived right next door to Coach Hill then, so I met Carlisle was one of the people that I first met, and I had Mr. Bowes was the principal. Lloyd Bowes was principal at the junior high then, and made a big impression on me in more than one way. He kind of had to straighten country boy up, moving to town, and he did a good job of that. So
where'd you go to high school?
Then went to Grand Prairie High School.
Okay.
And graduated from Grand Prairie High in 1957.
Tell me a little bit about your career at Grand Prairie High School.
Well,
favorite teachers? Did you excel in anything?
Miss Thelma Holly. I'd have to say Thelma Holly was certainly at the top of the list. But there's so many people that played an important part of my life in school. Of course, Skinny Davis was my football coach, and he was such a special person in my life, and up until he died, I mean, we stayed in close contact, had lunch once or twice a year, and a great person, a great influence on my life, as well as, gosh, I remember Mr. Fluharty was one of my teachers. Mr. Sandlin was my history teacher.
What was your favorite class?
Excuse me, Ruthie, but my favorite class, believe it or not, was English. Now, some people think I might not have excelled in English, but that was really, I was a straight A student in English, and I think Miss Holly had me as a sophomore and kind of got me off on the basics, and then Miss Hulsey, Florine Hulsey, who, by the way, just passed away a month or so ago. Later, Florine Howard. A great teacher.
You were a favorite at high school. What was that?
Well,
what were you?
I can tell you, Ruthie, that they were hard up for favorites in 1957. If you can,
they chose Janice, and I think that was a very
well.
good
I'm talking about on the male side. It was Carlisle Smith was a favorite, and I was voted for some reason. Nobody's figured it out. The most handsome.
I saw that in the book.
That can tells you that 57 wasn't a good year for the men in Grand Prairie High School. But
you should have been the most likely to succeed, but I noticed that you weren't that.
No, I wasn't. I'll tell you what. I'll have to tell you that there was a tie.
Oh, it was a tie.
And for the least likely to succeed, and that was a tie between Carlisle and I.
Oh.
And so
Carlisle will love this tape.
What can I say? But but a lot of great memories from junior high and high school. I've kind of had a love affair for a long time with Grand Prairie and Grand Prairie schools.
How about the Gopher Bowl?
Well, the Gopher Bowl, played the first game when I was a senior. We played the first game, the inaugural game at the Gopher Bowl. Yes. The second game of the year. If I remember right, we played Waco High School out of Waco University.
Yes.
Out of High. This was the first game in the Gopher Bowl, and I was there. I think I was in a cast. I just had knee surgery about the time of that first game. Janice was a cheerleader, and I was at the game, but didn't play in that game. I just had knee surgery, but great memories, and it was a great facility when it was built. And I remember Mr. Jackson was on that school board that approved the construction of the Gopher Bowl, and what it's still one of the great high school stadiums around, I believe, and I'm still proud of it.
Now, you always have the microphone at City Hall since you're the mayor, but we're going to make you rest a minute now, and we're going to let Janice talk.
That's
Is that
good.
all right?
You bet.
All right, Miss Janice.
Out talking, right?
Yeah, I know you can, but we can stop the music long enough for you to get a word in, as what Granny would say, edgewise.
He does it
So
well.
let's look out into the camera and tell us about the real Janice Wagoner England, and name your parents and your siblings, and anything you'd like to tell about your genealogy.
Well, I was born in Hamilton, Texas, like Mr. Jackson's home
county?
County,
Yes.
right. And my mother and daddy are Jay and Nadine Wagoner.
Mm-hmm. And what was her maiden name?
Her maiden name she was the daughter of Earl and Pearl Kirk.
Okay.
K-I-R-K.
And were they from Hamilton County also?
Yes, they were. And my father's mother and father also were from Hamilton County.
Yes.
Sudie and Ferdy Wagner.
All right.
Wagoner. And
Where were you? Were you born there in Hamilton?
I was in the hospital.
In the hospital
Yes,
there. All
yes.
right. And did you go to school in Hamilton?
No, I didn't. We moved to Grand Prairie when I was in 1941. So we lived on Houston Street in Grand Prairie, and for about a year, and then we moved to Pine Street. Mother and Daddy both worked.
You're getting closer to Ash Street, aren't
That's
you?
right.
Yes,
Just 2 or 3
yes.
blocks away.
All right.
And we lived at 1537 Pine, and Charlie was at 1518 Ash. I attended William B. Travis Elementary School, just a block away.
All right.
And then went to Grand
Grand
Prairie
Junior High.
Junior High, and graduated from Grand Prairie High School.
Now let's backtrack to Travis, because when you were in
Yes.
elementary school, who was your favorite teacher, and did you enjoy going to Travis? And
I did.
Who was the principal? Tell us
Jack
a little bit.
Robinson was the principal.
Okay.
And he then later was principal at Austin, where our children were students.
Favorite teacher at Travis?
Oh, I think it's ironic. Charlie had a Mrs. Finley who was in elementary, and I also had Mrs. Finley and Mrs. McCreary. They were 5th and 6th grade teachers. Katie Rowland was a librarian. She really impressed me. I just really.
That's great. And then graduating, so to speak, from elementary school and going to Grand Prairie Junior High, that was across the track.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Yes.
And how did you get to school? And tell me about your middle school or your junior high.
I was cheerleader in junior high. And
Okay.
it was a fun time of our life. It's quite an adjustment, I think, from elementary to junior high.
Did you have any favorite subjects academically? Now, the mayor is a big English cohort here.
English is my best too,
Oh,
right?
good.
History and math. I really enjoy history more now and wish that I had it those days back. But
And then from Grand Prairie Junior High to Gopher Land. Yes.
yes.
Tell us a little bit about changing from one side of the track back to the other side and going to Grand Prairie High School. And I'd like for you to mention the principal, because the mayor left that part out of his
Yes.
story. But
Well, Lloyd Bowes was principal in junior high and high school for us.
oh,
So, and he was a very significant person in our lives.
and we honored him this year as the
Yes,
outstanding alum for
rightfully.
the
Very
Grand
well
Prairie
deserving.
alumni.
He was.
How about your
He was.
favorite subject in high school now? Now that we're up to high school, you were a cheerleader again,
Yes.
all 4 years?
Well, then it was just seniors only.
Just seniors only?
Yes, in
Okay.
'57. I don't really know when they changed.
And do you still keep in touch with all of your wonderful cohorts that I saw you all
We
together
do.
2 years ago at the celebration of the Gopher Bowl? Do you keep in touch with all your cheerleaders?
We certainly do, and all 5 of us were lucky enough to be together this past year to celebrate the Gopher Bowl, which was
Wonderful.
memorable.
Yes.
It
All right.
was.
How about your favorite teacher at Grand Prairie High School? Anything you want to tell about? And you were a favorite. One of the favorites. You want to tell
Well,
what's
that
like?
was the first year they had most typical.
Yes.
And Jerry Jenkins and I were elected most typical, and that was the last year. So Jerry and I really haven't figured.
Yes.
We just really don't understand, why they just had to make one that year for us.
Yes. All right. Favorite subject?
English and Spanish. I enjoyed Spanish.
Okay. And the most favorite teacher in Grand Prairie High School for all 4 years?
I guess Ruth Powell had a lot to do with, she was in shorthand typing, and Marguerite Wood,
Wasn't
our
she
cheerleader
wonderful?
sponsor, yes, she was.
Just
Skinny
wonderful.
Davis, they were very.
We have both of you all.
Earl
And
Tom.
you graduated in 1956, 57 year.
Right, that's right.
And
Ruth.
you were saying something about Earl Tom. I better let you
Oh,
say that.
yes,
Earl Tom will get us in
we
big trouble.
enjoyed him, and he tried to teach us from junior high to high school also.
Okay, all right. Now we have both of you all through your high school years, but I need to get back to the mayor now.
Yes.
What happened to the mayor then?
Well, let me say about Mr. Bowes, I forgot to mention, and that's the reason when Carlisle and I left junior high, they figured nobody could handle us but Mr. Bowes, so they
promoted him too.
promoted Mr. Bowes to the high school along with our class, and because we didn't have a chance. He knew all of our tricks, and so we had a hard time getting away with much with Mr. Bowes as a principal.
You bet.
But Ruthie, after I graduated from high school, I went off to college, went to Texas A&M University my freshman year.
Yes.
And of course, Janice stayed in Grand Prairie, worked at the employed at the Mercantile Bank in downtown Dallas.
Yeah.
And of course, we had dated going back then. I think the term was going steady since Grand Prairie junior high school days, and it was a long way between College Station and Grand Prairie, so I moved back and enrolled in North Texas State and finished my college at North Texas. And Janice and I were married, and so we that was when I say I went. Really, Janice and I both went to school at the degrees in my name, but she did more work than I did really on getting me through college. But she worked, and we had Rhonda was born. Our first earliest child was born while I was still in college. In fact, then Kirk was born the day I graduated from college on August the 24th. That's a big day. August the 24th, 1961 is the day I graduated from college, and the day Kirk was born. His timing wasn't too good though, because his mother had worked
Real hard
to get me through, and then she didn't get to go to graduation. So anyhow,
What was your
left she and
chosen
Kirk.
major and career?
I was a business major.
Business
and,
major.
When I graduated, went with Sears and Roebuck as a management trainee for a few years, and then decided I wanted to go in business for myself, and got a State Farm Insurance Agency 30 years ago, I guess in 1967, 68. I started my insurance business here in Grand Prairie, and have been with State Farm ever since. 30 years in May, I believe. So.
And after you had been doing that a while and had accumulated this wonderful family, I believe your history shows that you did run for an elected office for the school board.
I did. In fact, I ran for the school board twice. Carlisle told me one time, the first time I ran for school board, that I was the only person in the history of the Grand Prairie school board candidates to come in third in a two-man race. So that was my first experience in politics.
Who beat you in the school board
Bruce
race?
Bland, and he beat me good too.
Okay.
And a couple of years later, I decided I'd try it one more time, and was elected. And I believe in 1973 was when I was elected to the school board, and served one term. And of course, it was a busy time in our life. Rhonda was off to college, and Kirk and Lori were in high school, and so I did not run for re-election, and kind of stayed out of the politics for the next 20 years or so, and then 6 years ago I decided I've always loved politics and was interested in it from the time I was in high school and through college, and but I thought, well, I'll try it maybe one more time, and then you have to be careful what you wish for. Sometimes you get it, and so. But all joking aside, I've really enjoyed my last 6 years as mayor of Grand Prairie. It's been a great time to be mayor. I've told so many people, when you've got a city council like we've got now, and which of course you're a member, and it's great. It's easy to be mayor in when you have a council like we've got and the kind of staff we've got, and I feel like the city's really on the move, and it's the last 6 years have been a lot of fun.
Wonderful. All right, now, Janice, we're going to let you take the picture, and we're going to let you hold it up. See, the mayor's had the floor entirely too long, and you've mentioned your children. I want you to mention them again, and then I want you to name those grandchildren.
All right.
All right, but I want you to name your other children because we have Rhonda, Kurt, and Lori, and I want to be sure that everything is in order the way we've gotten those.
That's right, Ruthie. Rhonda is our firstborn, and our first grandson, Clayton Mark Barhorst. Rhonda's married to Mark Barhorst.
All right.
And this is our first grandson. He's 14 now.
All right. Where does he live?
He lives in Houston.
In Houston, Texas.
Mark's an anesthesiologist into pain management medicine in Houston. And this is his sister, our youngest grandchild, Jana Renee Barhorst. And she's 7.
All right.
And then Kirk's oldest son is named after his 2 grandfathers, Charles Robert England, and he's 11.
Okay.
And he's at
Jackson Middle School.
Middle School in Grand Prairie.
All right.
And his younger brother is Samuel Harper England, and Sam is 9, and he attends Zavala Elementary.
Oh, great.
In Grand Prairie. And then Lori, our youngest daughter, Lori Lori Lee is married to Brian Arnold, and their oldest is Clint, who is 11. He and Charles Robert are very, very close, same 3 weeks difference in their age.
And where does Clint go to school?
Clint goes to school at Adams Junior High.
All right.
And his younger sister, and that's Clint Harrison Arnold. And then Catherine Janice Arnold was our first granddaughter.
Yes.
And that's Clint's younger sister.
And does she go to school?
And she goes to Eisenhower Elementary in Grand Prairie.
You know, that is a wonderful group to get together. Did you have them all together for Thanksgiving?
We did, all except the Houston group didn't get to come, but everyone else was there, and we had a great time. Tutin, her cousin Moselle were there, and I have to tell you about Charlie, Kirk's oldest son. He won't like to see this, but he was given the blessing for Thanksgiving, and he was blessing everybody, and he said, God bless our family and Moselle. That was Tuta's cousin. It was Moselle. So
he singled her out.
She got to be singled out, right?
That's precious. And I understand that you have a beautiful home at the lake that you have made the mayor work very, very hard to get it into good shape. Are you enjoying that?
We are. We enjoy.
And is that where you had your celebration?
We did. We had the celebration at the lake house and the whole weekend. So.
Mayor, tell us about hustling on that lake house. You have really done a good job.
Well, we enjoy getting away on the weekends when we can, and it's very relaxing. Jaleesa and I both love the water, and our home is right on the lake, and we've got 4 acres, and so that keeps me busy, and
doing a lot of
everybody that I can get to help me busy, keeping that up. But Janice has done a great job on decorating it, and I kind of leave that up to her, and I just run. I'm in charge of the lawnmowers. She's in charge of decorating, but we really do enjoy getting away, and I think it's good for both of us, and our family enjoys it. So we always look forward to getting down there.
Janice, I know that your mother and father were longtime members of the First United Methodist Church, and is that where you all attend also?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And y'all are doing a lot of refurbishing and redoing the whole building?
It's going to be beautiful.
I
It really
understand.
is.
And many of our good friends that have passed away in the last couple of 3 months, their funerals have had to be held somewhere else, like Irene Paxton. We miss the building not being there, don't we?
Yes.
It is. They're doing they're doing a beautiful job. Janice and I were in a couple of weeks ago, and it's going to really be beautiful.
We go back so far that we were like the last wedding in the old church,
Yes.
First Methodist Church.
And that was
And my
such a gorgeous
sister was
thing.
like the first wedding in the
In the
new
new.
church.
That's wonderful. Tell me about the racetrack.
Well, the racetrack, we just finished the quarter horse season, as you know, this past Sunday, and
Well, tell them you're the president of the Sports Corporation. That's
Well,
what I want you to tell. Yes.
I am the president of the Sports Corporation, which is a kind of an arm of the city. The Sports Corporation is made up of myself and 3 council people, and then 3 lay people from the community, and we were kind of charged with the responsibility of making sure that it was built and that we got our money's worth. And I'm just as proud as I could be of the Sports Corporation and the racetrack. And I think it's a real asset to the city. I think it has really kind of put Grand Prairie on the map, at least in the eyes of developers, is a good place to do business. And a lot of good things have happened the past a few years, and not all because of the racetrack, of course, but because of a lot of things. I think the racetrack certainly has contributed to improving our image. It's a world-class facility. The first 2 racing seasons are over, the thoroughbred season and now the quarter horse season ended Sunday. Both very successful. I read Gary West's article in the Dallas Morning News this morning, and the quarter horse season was a success like the thoroughbred. So we're anxious now for a new development to start around the racetrack, and I think that'll happen real soon. People wanted to make sure we were going to get it built, and it was going to be truly a world-class facility. And I think now that people see it's there and it's successful, that we'll see hopefully a lot of development, quality development, come in that area.
We have only 1 minute left on this interview. I'd like for you in that 1 minute to look out into Grand Prairie and tell them how much you like the city that you really do love.
Well, I don't know if I can tell that in a minute, but I said earlier that Grand Prairie has been so good to me and to my family, and I was in love with Grand Prairie really before I moved here, and that was back in 1951, and I've enjoyed every day. I wouldn't live anyplace else. It's a great place to live and raise a family, and so many good things are happening to us now, and I'm grateful for that. It's been one of the best kept secrets in the Metroplex for too long, but I think the word's now getting out that it's a great place to do business, a great place to live, a great place to raise our family. I'm proud of the school district. It's a fine school district, and I don't think there's anything ahead of Grand Prairie except a lot of success, and I'm excited about that.
Well, you are a stem-winder mayor. We're so proud that you're our mayor. You have so many accomplishments. If we went down all of the list of the things that you're instrumental in seeing that are successful, we want to thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Ruthie. It's always good to be here.
Janice, thank you for sharing this interview with the mayor.
Thank you, Ruthie.
And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.